Okay, looks like we are streaming, so let's get Ronald Reagan out here.
Stop to think how unique we really are. In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle. Mr. President, I want our fellow citizens to know how much you did to carry on this tradition. By your gracious cooperation in the transition process, you have shown a watching world that we are a united people, pledged to maintaining a political system which guarantees individual liberty to a greater degree than any other. And I thank you and your people for all your help in maintaining the continuity which is the bulwark of our republic. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people. Well, if no one among us is capable of governing himself, then who among us has the capacity to govern someone else? So as we begin, let us take inventory. We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And this makes us special among the nations of the earth. Our government has no power except that granted it by the people. It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed. It is my intention to curb the size and influence of the federal establishment and to demand recognition of the distinction between the powers granted to the federal government and those reserved to the states or to the people. All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government. Now, so there will be no misunderstanding, it's not my intention to do away with government. It is rather to make it work with us, not over us, to stand by our side, not ride on our back. Government can and must provide opportunity, not smother it, foster productivity, not stifle it. If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government. It is time for us to realize that we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. We're not, as some would have us believe, doomed to an inevitable decline. I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. So with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. And let us renew our faith and our hope. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. On the eve of our struggle for independence, a man who might have been one of the greatest among the founding fathers, Dr. Joseph Warren, president of the Massachusetts Congress, said to his fellow Americans, "Our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important question upon which rests the happiness and the liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves." As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever. Our forbearance should never be misunderstood. Our reluctance for conflict should not be misjudged as a failure of will. When action is required to preserve our national security, we will act. We will maintain sufficient strength to prevail if need be, knowing that if we do so, we have the best chance of never having to use that strength. Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors. Beyond those monuments to heroism is the Potomac River, and on the far shore, the sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses or stars of David. They add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom. Each one of those markers is a monument to the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. Their lives ended in places called Belleau Wood, the Argonne, Omaha Beach, Salerno, and halfway around the world on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and in 100 rice paddies and jungles of a place called Vietnam. Under one such marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barber shop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There on the Western Front, he was killed trying to carry a message between battalions under heavy artillery fire. We're told that on his body was found a diary. On the flyleaf, under the heading, "My Pledge," he had written these words: "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." The crisis we're facing today does not require of us the kind of sacrifice that Martin Treptow and so many thousands of others were called upon to make. It does require, however, our best effort and our willingness to believe in ourselves and to believe in our capacity to perform great deeds, to believe that together we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
In session, guys. Sit down and listen to your teacher, Ed. I'm asleep in the faculty room. Ed? Ed? Do I need to find Wilbur someplace? Ed!
Oh, maybe that was muted.
Yeah, there you go. Alright.
Anyhow, I want to say thank you for everybody who is joining us and those who are listening down the road who get a chance to listen to this. Tonight I want to get into basically it's how cops, lawyers, judges, and everybody works together to rape, rob, and pillage you. And this includes Christians, because all these members are Christians. Let's not forget. Your elected and public servants are Christians. So you people say that it doesn't go that route. Well, open your eyes up. Let's be realistic. And where are you praying to who? So, but anyhow, dealing with lawyers and judges and cops, and we're talking caseworkers. We're talking basically, because a cop is a rent-a-cop if you don't know the truth. That's all they are, is a rent-a-cop to the city and county and state. Their job is 100% for administrative rules only, statute codes, and they are to enforce it on elected and public employees, registered church members and voters, and all immigrants. That's what the actual law says. This is the one thing that sort of frustrates me because I know people do not read the law. They read a statute code and administrative rules and they assume that, oh my God, that's got to be the law. No, it's not the law. The law is called the Constitution. I have publicized it. I have an actual stamp from the Queen of England, 1993, that states the Constitution is the law of the United States, 48 states. Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, they are not part of the United States of the 48 states in our jurisdiction. They are part of the Corporation Administrative Rules of Washington, D.C. statute codes. And you can look that up, and it's there. We do have it up on new.org and trackers as well. And so we want to make sure that people comprehend what a right is and what a privilege is. And that's the one thing that most people do not have a reality. Even immigrants, they do have some so-called rights, but they are privileges, but they're so-called rights. But it's knowing how to use your citizenship. And remember, citizenship is a ship that's on land that is dictated by a corporation that you're asking permission from we the people to be here. That's the Treaty of 1871, the British Vatican Treaty. And that's the one thing that people really need to comprehend. And I mean comprehend is how we have rights, not privileges. How to comprehend how citizens have privileges, but so long as that they pay their administrative rules or taxes and that structure, then they have to be protected by the elected and public servants. And so when you go and ask a cop to do their job or to protect you, remember, cops are revenue collectors. They don't care about you. They don't love you. I don't give a damn if it's your mommy and daddy. They'll turn on you for their job in a heartbeat, and that's proven in their industry. Anybody who's been in their industry definitely knows that for a fact. Because the one thing is, you don't go against what they call the brotherhood. And I sort of, I've had some concept of this, and I'll leave it at that. And this is the one point that people need to comprehend what elected and public servant is. And that's what they are, servants. They don't have authority. And as soon as you start comprehending what authority is, what a privilege is, and what elected and public servant has a privilege of. And public servants, that means they're a public servant. And when people all of a sudden they keep saying it's my government, excuse me, when you keep saying that in the 48 states, you are saying that you have no rights, period, at all, in the story. Because if you're going by the government, that is ruled by Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church. That's how the courts are actually run. So when you even fart in a classroom, like children have been arrested for farting in a classroom for offensive odor, that's religion. That is technically racism. Racism is not your color of skin. Racism goes against your religious beliefs. That's a fact. That's the way it's ruled in the House and Senate. It's the way it's actually written up, and it's a shame that people do not really look at the structure of the way things are written. You know, it's like the one I'm going to be hitting into the forfeiture laws, too, because people, it's like I was kidnapped and held for ransom a few years ago. I was kidnapped because they were serving an unlawful warrant that was not been done by a grand jury, was done by a public servant for personal and financial gain, because in the state of Oregon and all 48 states, you do not need a driver's license by state and federal law. If you read your state law, it says it's for commercial purposes only. It doesn't say it's a privilege. Commercial is a privilege of employment. That's where the privilege comes in. And employment pertains to Foreign Registration Act, elected and public servants, registered church members, registered voters, and people have told me, well, I'm not a registered voter, Ed. You can't tell that I'm a registered voter. Yes, you are. You are a registered church member because your pastor registers you. Too bad you don't know the truth. You don't investigate the truth. And pastors are the ones that will even turn you in faster than anything else because they get personal and financial gains off of their 501c3s through 50c through 9, or 503c1 through 50c through 9. And you can look up your 501c3s and the structure of that, and you'll see what I'm referring to. They do get a write-off, even though that they didn't even have donations that year. They can write off a certain amount to the alleged taxpayers, and they could get that reimbursement for mileage and traffic and all of that. Even, traffic tickets, they get reimbursed for that if they get those. And that's the one thing that, they're not going to tell you in the system. You have to realize they're not going to tell you this stuff. And people go, well, they have a right to tell me. They're supposed to tell me. No. When you have elected and public servants who are committing criminal activities under the foreign structure, all right, basically under piracy, and this piracy goes back to England, well, Spain too, but the original structure goes back to both countries. And so we have road pirates, and we have a video up too dealing with that on our site that walks you through how certain states right now, if you get pulled over by a cop, they ask you to swipe your credit card over their machine. They have been busted for erasing people's accounts. This is a fact. And then you try to go after them to go back after your assets and your money and stuff like this. They beat you up in court. Because remember, the judges work together. They're not going to sit there and protect you. They don't care about you. They don't love you because they have to protect the cop because the cop protects them. That's the one thing that you have to comprehend. They protect each other. That's called democracy. A democratic democracy says we shall protect each other and we will rape, rob, and pillage, and that's acceptable. That's democracy. Hey, that's a real democracy. It's a real fact, folks. Look up the term and comprehend what a democracy really is. This is where it's so disturbing that people do not comprehend what they're going through with a lawyer. Okay, and the other point is that you do not have to be a lawyer, okay, to be a lawyer. Federal law states that there is no license to be a lawyer, number one. This is where people do not comprehend reality, and I'd love to get into that, with reality. I'm going to get into some of these other things that we have posted on the new.Oregon Facebook or new.Oregon website. The Facebook, I've been blocked again from Facebook again this morning. This is the one thing that really disturbs me because I figured that I put out a structure protecting people and their children, And so because I'm protecting children from the birth certificate bond, it is very disturbing because there's those people that believe that you should be registered, Christians, number one, and because that's where I was attacked again, because I was going against some things and people were a little upset because I went after and spoke the truth. Well, I'm not sorry. I speak the truth, so I'm not going to change. And so the other point is to make sure that you get a hold of this one, 22 CFR 92.12-92.31. It's called the heading foreign registration states that an oath of office is required to take in office. So that means elected and public employee. That means a cop. That means a judge. That means the social worker down the street. That means any contractor that gets paid by public funding. Any contractor. Technically, that could even be related to the gas station attendant who's getting a contract from the gas station, from the government on the gas station. And you can look up at Title 8, USC 1481. I believe we have this on our site. Want to make sure you comprehend this. And this states that you take an oath. Citizenship is relinquished. So people don't realize what a citizen and national, they're the same thing under Executive 2040. And I've had conversations with people on that, and they're trying to convince me. And I'm going by administrative rules, what I read. I don't go by what went on prior to the Civil War because people had different opinions back then compared to today. Today is the way it's written. This is what your police and your senators and congressmen go by today. They do not go by the structure. Most of it was written prior. They don't go by that. We do have some honorable senators and representatives that are speaking up and standing up, and those we need to recognize and thank them when you see them. Don't forget to thank them. And Title 22 USC Foreign Relations Intercourse Act, Chapter 11. This means that public officials are foreign agents, and if they don't register as foreign agents, they're not Americans anymore. I don't care if you got a 50-year bloodline. I mean, 5 times bloodline, 10 times bloodline. Your family's been here 1,000 years. Doesn't matter. The minute you become a public employee, that's paid by the federal British government. The federal government is the British government under the 1871 contract that we have with the federal British government and the Bennonia Treaty of 1213 combined into the contract of the Civil War. And that's the 1871 British contract with the Vatican for we the people. We ended up getting into that contract so we had elected and public servants instead of keep killing each other in the street. That is the real point about that. And people need to comprehend these things and quit living in these little ideas. Read the actual structures. Quit going off in your mind at, it says this and it says that. I read the stuff. They wrote it. We, the lawful bloodline Americans, we quote what they wrote. We're not sitting there trying to take credit for something else or give credit out. We are reading what's actually in the administrative rules that is written to protect lawful bloodline Americans and legal citizens. Immigration, there is no dream act, because when you wake up from a dream, you come to the reality. Let's be realistic. And I can't wait to see the rest of that abolished and everybody else shipped out on that, because that's costing us billions of dollars. Billions, with a B, dollars. All right, that's why they're doing forfeitures on your home, stealing your land, stealing your bank accounts to cover for immigration. I mean, that's real, folks. This is how they really do it. They steal from you to cover immigration. They steal from you to cover their crimes. And people go, oh, that's not real. And it's like, I put this stuff up, I read this stuff, I put this stuff in my emails out, and if you guys would actually read what I send you, you will see that I'm telling you the truth. I'm quoting what they quote and how it really works. So under the 11th Amendment states, judicial power of the United States shall not be construed or extended to any suit in law or equal to comments and prosecute against one of the United States by citizen or another state, or by citizens all right, are subjects of any foreign state. So basically, you don't foreign elected and public employees, and if you watch congressional hearings this week, they came out because the former state attorney general Loretta, I'm trying to remember her name off the top of my head, she was trying to use some of these things, her Fifth and 11th Amendment. Public servants have no rights. They cannot claim a constitutional right when you are a public servant. You have no rights as elected and public servants if you get caught committing crimes. There is no evidence. There is no case law. There is no law that gives a public servant a right out. No way, absolutely not. If they don't comply, this is what disturbs me. They should be doing mandatory 15 days starting, 30 days, and then, going up when they don't comply and follow through with their employment. When they try to sit there, like what's happened with Hillary Clinton's case with some of these people who have said that, no, it violates their constitutional right. When you are a foreign agent, you have no constitutional right, period. End of story. There is none for you. Once you become getting that paycheck under the March 9th, 1933 Bankruptcy Act, and this isn't a Bankruptcy Act itself, when you really read it, to elected and public servants, that means cops, judges, bailiffs, all of it. United States Marshals, anybody who gets a paycheck, you are not an American. You give up your rights and you have to register as a foreign agent. I will have this deal out on the things I've said here lately. It's taken me a couple months to put some of the stuff together on the Foreign Registration Act. But when I do this, I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly to the best of my ability of reading it. And I'm filing criminal charges of, what would that be? Terrorist, treason. I'm putting all that into this. So when I do this, anybody can run with that after I put it up on the website. And after next week, put it on Facebook. Because, see, that Facebook blocked me again. People were turning me in for, and I believe that was on the religious baby stuff I put up. That was educating people on their rights to their bloodline, to own their bloodline. I do get a lot of people going, Ed, what do you mean by owning the bloodline? There is no such thing as a bloodline. I hate to tell you, folks, but if you gave birth to a boy or a girl, because the rest of it does not exist, it's not real, we all know that, it's all a fantasy. If it ain't born, it ain't living, and if it's a test tube, it sure to heck ain't real. So that's the one thing that we need to be realistic with on these things. And we know that attorneys, lawyers, and judges and police conspire and work together, because if they didn't conspire and work together, they couldn't rape, rob, and pillage us. I mean, there's people who have been falsely accused of crimes, but there ain't no crime. They're misdemeanor statutes, like I have, convicted are accused, and apparently that I still have it up where you can see my mugshot up, and they said interfering with a cop and all this stuff. And I have the videos. The only thing I interfered is told the cop he couldn't issue an unlawful warrant. He put that warrant on the ground in front of the lady. That would have been Laura. And when he put it down, I said, he's going, I'm going to arrest you for littering. I said, you can't arrest her for littering. I witnessed you putting it down. Oh, yeah, no, you can't. And this is all on the video. And I said, well, on the other point, you can't arrest her for littering anyways. It's biodegradable. And by federal and state law, biodegradable is not littering. That means paper products, biodegradable, that's food products. You throw a banana peel out the window of the car, an apple core. It's not a criminal offense. You got people that will call the cops on somebody throwing a piece of fruit out of a car going, it's littering. And those people need to go have their mentally exam and have their head checked out, because when it comes to throwing out food and vegetables or fruit, it's not littering. It's biodegradable. It's what develops in plants of food, grow food. Like I've been in an argument with a couple people on the internet, and they're like, dealing with growing food. Why should we do that? We got a grocery store. Well, then if something happens, then you can't eat, and then you're blaming everybody else for you don't have food. Well, grow food, can food. No food shortage stops that. This is how it really works. We didn't have food shortages in the United States per se, realistically, until the 1970s. Prior to that, the 1940s and 50s, even the Great Depression, we didn't have starvation in this country. We had starvation in a couple of the big cities, yeah, because people were relying on what they call paper money, but anybody who lived outside the city went and shot their food. They weren't starving. So that's what the thing is. We get so misled because of our advanced of knowledge that we think we have so advanced of knowledge, and then when we actually do some real history, we find out our knowledge is not as advanced as we really think it is, especially in the structure of statute codes and administration or constitutional law. You know, I'm not talking mathematics or, you know, anything like that. I'm talking about common sense. You know, common sense. There's no way the Twin Towers fell by kerosene. Kerosene cannot get that hot to melt metal, period. Can't. Doesn't get that hot. Kerosene is jet fuel. And if you watched it and you type in controlled demolition, you'll watch the buildings fall exactly like controlled demolition everywhere. And this is the one thing about our public servants. They work together to rape, rob, and pillage from us. Like I said, they charged me, I ended up putting $10,000 out for, for, you know, bail. You know, I mean, they even charged me $75,000 bail for not signing a judge release. The judge chews me out and goes, well, you didn't sign that release. I told you to write the way I wanted you to write it. I said, I don't have to sign that release, man. You're going back to jail until you sign that release. So that cost me $7,500 to get out, cash. And then when they reimbursed me, they kept $1,000 saying, oh, they got steal, rape, rob, and steal your money. Even though I was never convicted, the case was thrown out of court. I proved it was a fraud. They tried to say I signed an affidavit of a police agreement or jail release agreement when I said I find that interesting, and I could prove I couldn't sign it because I was in the hospital on an IV drip from a heart attack that the jailers had to bring me in. And you're saying I signed it at 7:30. I was in the hospital on an IV drip from 3:30 in the morning and then get released until 11 o'clock that afternoon when I was stable. Oh, shit, they didn't want that one because they knew that somebody forged it. Yeah, and I was going to go after and prove it, but, you know, I've had a chance to do that one, and also, too, when you keep getting your life threatened, it's one of those things. I want you to read this 18 U.S.C. Code, Chapter 93. Police officers and employees. This is the one thing that people have to realize, that a police officer is a revenue collector for the IRS, the British government. Taxes are voluntary. They truly are voluntary. And that's the one thing you have to comprehend. I do have the tax laws up. I got more that I'll be putting up. You can also, too, type in IRS director says taxes are voluntary. I even have the structure on my Facebook, Recall Kate Brown, Governor Kate Brown. And I have the actual structure on that from the IRS director telling everybody, don't tell everybody the law, and told them to destroy evidence and stuff on that structure of the law because they don't want it out that you don't have to voluntarily pay, because there's no such thing as paying taxes on labor. It only says in the tax code interest and dividends. That's stocks and bonds. And remember, your police departments, your judges, your lawyers, your attorneys, all invest back into the local jails because they're stockholders in the jail. You'll find out a lot of your local businesses are stockholders in the jail, so that way they can rape, rob, and pillage and make money. That's what the Democrats do. It's called democracy. We're going to rape, rob, and pillage. What democracy is, when it comes down to it, it says we, the collective, are going to tell you how to live. So when you get into 8 U.S.C. Chapter 93, Public Officer and Employee, this deals with the actual structures of public employees, dealing with crop information, dealing with disclosure of confidentiality information. And every time you go to one of these courtrooms, And that's one thing I've been having interesting conversations with people the last couple of weeks, really in the last week. And it's like, I went in court and I said this, and I said, wait a minute, you said what? And they told me what they said, and I said, oh, so in other words, you enter hearsay evidence. Oh, no, the judge is supposed to do this and that. And I said, did you put it in writing? Did you have it turned in and admitted into court? No, I don't have to do that. I can do that and just tell the judge what's going on. I said, well, that's called hearsay evidence. No wonder you're not getting anywhere. It's the way it really works, folks, because if you don't put it in writing and make sure the clerk has a stamp on it, and you don't have a stamped copy of it, it's not filed. It's hearsay evidence. It doesn't work. This is where people have to comprehend how their system works. And I've argued with many people. Many people saying, well, they're supposed to know this, they're supposed to do this. Well, they are, but see, they don't know if you're an immigrant. They don't know if you're lawful in this country. When it comes down to it, they technically should, because your information is all in the structure. When it comes down to it, when it really comes down to it, your information's in the structure. And so, and anyhow, that's a disturbing part. So it's like you have to prove that you're lawful or legal. That's exactly what you have to prove. Lawful bloodline or legal citizen or legal national. I've had conversations. I got things going back and forth with people right now on legal national, and they're filing different paperwork. And I said, please let me know if it works. Because by the administrative rules I have read, a citizen and national under Executive Order 2040 is the same thing. They wrote it, they quoted it. They're national technically is part of British European law, a national. And so if you don't use the term, what I've been experiencing with people that I've been involved with, claiming your lawful bloodline to this soil, including to your children, because I do have that up too now, where you could review that, if you have a child that you just had newborn or stuff, you file, claim your bloodline on the child, you claim ownership of your bloodline. That is your life. That's the raised spirit, and Mother gives life. The Creator gave it to you. Sorry, I don't go by the other terminology, because if you go by German laws and structure, God is the devil, and that's why the Germans were doing what they did and incinerating what they call the Jews. And if you ever look at the Pope's robe or some of the stuff with Christianity churches, you'll see the swastika and you'll see the diamond path, the sticker that's on the robe of the Pope itself from Nazi Germany. So it's like stepping out of the movie, watching the production, quit getting wrapped up where you're not thinking. Step out, back off, and look. And the one movie I do recommend on these type of circumstances is Interstate 60. I do suggest that people watch it literally twice. It's on YouTube, Interstate 60. Excuse me. It'll explain to you your court system. Because your court system is a fraud. Because if you have no grand jury and you have no injured party, statute codes and administration, a parking ticket, a traffic infraction, those are infractions. So that's what, when you go to these courts, you're being punished by their Bible, their Christianity beliefs. People get hard on me by saying, hey, quit getting on the Christians on this. These men and women in those damn courtrooms are Christians. They go to your local church. Wake up. Quit lying to yourself, because they're out there stealing from you. I could be very bold and be very rude to shooting in Texas, okay? Well, it's like the Bible says God will decide who lives and dies, says it in the Bible itself, so I guess God made the decision. Tell me if that one ain't a sick one. So when people want to get on these little paths, it really disturbs me when people don't think correctly about what they're talking about. And I've been in that path. So I have to start thinking about what I say, what I talk. That's why I bring these things up to your attention. Whoever is being an officer, employed, an agent of the United States or any agency thereof engages in inspections of vessels. Remember, your body is a vessel. Realistically, upon any pretense, receive any fee or reward for his service. So that means If he's a public servant writing you a ticket, he gets a percentage. They say, oh, they don't get percentages. That's bullshit. They do get percentage. They get paid to go to court. They don't go to court, and that's not part of their job. They get paid to go to court, to testify. They get paid if they win the case. If they don't win it, they don't get paid usually. Some states do guarantee their pay for going to court, either or. So, except what is allowed to him by law. So I want you to, I'm quoting this right out of 18 U.S.C. Code 1912. Unauthorized fees for inspection of vessel. Your body is a vessel. Your life form is a financial vessel. That's like, and I didn't use that in my terminology when I wrote that. Maybe I could have when I wrote that on a children's thing. But I didn't want to get into the vessel part. I got one part in it where it says vessel, but I didn't want to get into that deeply because I don't want to lose people on the vessel part, because your body's a vessel. You don't need to go extreme on that one. I did extreme on it already as it is. And so, when you're sitting out there stealing from the pen, and you shall be fined. This is dealing when they steal from you. Your title. Under this title, imprisonment, not more than 6 months or both. This even applies when they steal your child from DHS. So it is looking at these things and trying to comprehend how these things work for you. So they stole your kid. Well, they just took your vessel from you. That's your blood. That is your personal bloodline. That is your personal property. They have another point here, which I was glad that I learned this after a point, because I used to be one of these, in a sense. They tried to get me on a deal, but I never. See, this is one thing. 18 U.S.C. Code 1913, lobbying with appropriation of monies. I was a lobbyist per se. I had bills on the Senate public hearings. I had bills with my name on them, bills I recommended that had other names on them up at the Oregon State House and Senate. But I never made profit on it. So when former present county commissioner Terry Thompson in Lincoln County and former state representative Gene Cowan and Governor Kulongoski and all these Democrats from the state of Oregon filed all these charges on me years back, saying that I was a lobbyist with my bills in 2007 or 2005 through 2009. They filed and tried to put me in jail, said I was violating not only federal law but state law as a lobbyist because I didn't report my income to them. Well, by law, I didn't have income because nobody paid me to be a lobbyist. I went up for my structure, my own time, out of my own pocket. So I never got reimbursed, so that doesn't apply. This is where people need to comprehend how administrative rules work. Remember, these are rules, not laws. The law is the Constitution. And this is where it really comes down to, the real basis of the structure. And foreign policy. So, and this is national security, this deals with national security activities. Violations of sections shall be considered a violation of Section 1252. So that means if you're making an income as a lobbyist or a contractor from the government, we the people, from the elected and public employees, manufacturer structure out of the state or federal treasuries that we the people own, technically, where you need to file these complaints on these men and women, prove how they violated their privileges of employment. And there is structures into this with disloyalty of employment to the employees, for the employers, and we are the employers of these men and women. And once you comprehend that we have elected and public servants, and if we can start getting you and your neighbor and your brother and sister to start stating that we have elected and public servants, not government, because we the people are the government. We start teaching people the proper term that we have elected and public servants, and that goes back to the 1871 contract. People realize they don't have to be afraid of the people, the employees. It's disgusting that cops are out there murdering people in the street corners today because, oh, that's right, they violate a statute and code, and so they're judge, jury, and execution, so they're gods. They're demigods out there murdering people. I hate it when people say, I'm a demigod. Well, all right, so you're a murderer, so you get to be judge, jury, and executioner. That goes to Judge Dredd. I think Stallone was in that movie. And so, you know, these movies, when they come out in times, these are explaining what's going on in your communities right now today. Explaining what's going on in life. And people go, well, it says it in the Bible, and the Bible is this. Man wrote the Bible. It's reliving the Bible. And the thing that gets to me is, when are we going to stop being little boys and girls and children and start being adults and stop reliving what the Bible says that we're supposed to be mind controlled to relive? That's where your law enforcement, your public servants have got all of us, and so many people trained are the ministers, you know. Romans 13 of the Bible says, thou shalt do what Caesar tells me to do. I'm not supposed to be free thinking. There was things that were hung up in different...
has been detected.
Oh no, that was on. But I had that turned off. It's on the other computer. But anyhow, it's like, you know, how these things are working and how they are. And I expect you to read Hale versus Hinkle. Dave would always bring that up all the time. Watch it. Watch the videos on it. Read it. These things do mean a structure. And that's how to file it and try to stand up for succeed in your rights of standing up for your beliefs and your rights. Because I've even got the stuff up there where if you do things right, it's a long list too, but courts are free to lawful bloodline Americans. And if you write the paperwork correctly, it could be free to citizens and nationals. But the main point is that you do not claim that you are a citizen or national or a person. You have to prove you're lawful bloodline American or a legal citizen that's paid all your structure. As long as you paid all your administrative rules. You got to read it. It says it right in the damn laws that I put up there. So it's up to you to read it. And then the other point, see, this is the one thing they don't like, is 1638, embezzlement of government property. Well, and that's 18 U.S.C. 641. And if you read that, that doesn't just mean military, cops, judges, attorneys. That even means you if you're a citizen, because you are government property. If you are national, you're government property. Read 18 U.S.C. 641. Eventually, I'm going to start reading this stuff. I do some of the reading, but I want to see people read themselves, because I can sit there and read a lot of this stuff and walk you through it. I'll walk you through it. But when I sit there and read a lot of this stuff, that doesn't mean you're reading it and you're comprehending it. You need to comprehend this stuff and majorly educate your children around you. Either your children or the neighborhood children if they're willing to listen. And that's the one thing that we've got to start doing. And then Section 665, theft of embezzlement from employment and training funds. That goes even into law enforcement. That even goes into the juries. That even goes to judges. So if they spend money out of their funding, which they do all the time, and I've been after to get some of their funding for years, and Walter Bruin out of Wonderful State, type in Walter Bruin CAFA reports and watch his CAFA reports. I think we have some of that up, and I'll get some more of those put up. Walter Bruin does a wonderful job on CAFA, walks you through how the finances really work compared to what we're led to believe. And this is the point that is our responsibility. These public servants, judges, cops, police officers, wherever you want to call them, state police officers, it even includes marshals if they're going by administrative rules, federal marshals, not the continental marshals or continental judges. You know, I don't want to get into those things because all those guys, why are they still in jail if they're all judges and if they all know what they're doing? So, you know, pay attention to who, what, why is doing things around you. Watch the success rates. read the administrative rules, and read the federal procedure on judicial fitness. Read the federal procedure, 17. It's up on our site, too. So you get to know when you file a federal complaint. And you have to write a federal criminal complaint. Criminal charges and complaints. And always, if you're doing a complaint, put in Corpus Delicti 3771. Always. If you do not put in your Corpus Delicti, that means you're a living man or woman, Corpus Delicti. If you don't put that in, that means you're a dead body, you're a corpus, and you have no rights. That's simple. They strict to these things. I've had people that have filed different paperwork in courts over the last several months, and they keep filing back in their state and federal Supreme Court of their states, and they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. You can't file in a state where the men and women are having relations with each other in bedrooms. Think about it. If you were doing that in your life, and somebody comes up to you at your job, and if you're working for whatever retailer you are, whatever company you are, and somebody comes up and tries to rock the boat in that, what are you going to do? You're going to fire them. You're going to make life miserable for them. Hey, welcome to reality of the world. And you think that these men and women don't do it? They do it the same thing you do. I don't give a damn if you're a Christian, Roman Catholic, whatever religion you want to claim. And remember, religion is racism. Religion truly is racism. Racism, people go, it's color. No, it's not. The Constitution has nothing called color racism because all men and women of all color are equal. There is not one or the other. The Democrats and the Republican Party have done a wonderful job keeping us fighting against each other out of stupidity. Mind stupidity, mental stupidity, and our own stupidity. Oh, they say this. It's like this church shooting in Texas, And it's like, okay, so we got another church shooting. We got another shooting going on by another immigrant. And people are going, oh, well, we want the immigrants in this country. No, you don't, because when they get a birth certificate, you're paying for them. And if you want them in this country, you open your door, let them sleep in your bed, let them eat your food, let them shit in your property. We don't want them around here. This United States of 48 states is not open to the world. As soon as you folks start realizing this, and don't give me this Christianity or Roman Catholic Church stuff, God says this. God doesn't say a damn thing. How many times you prayed for God and you got a response? Okay, let's be realistic. So, let's be realistic here. When you start inviting strangers into your home and then all of a sudden things start getting destroyed. Look at the way we've been destroyed. Another state passed a deal where you can marry 13-year-old girls. 13-year-old girls, so we're raping children. Pedophilia is accepted, and you go for it, you accept it, and you call yourself a Christian? And I get tired of Christians telling me, oh, that's not bullshit. You accept it, you go along with it, you endorse it. So please, let's be realistic. And I'm going to explain this to you. Federal law also prohibits cities and counties from issuing citations against businesses. See Title 18, U.S.C. 891-896, quoting Section 891. Extraordinarily means it is a means of involves the use of an express impact threat of use or violence of another criminal means to cause harm to the person, reputation, or property. So, in other words, writing a citation for criminal activity that they call is a parking ticket, a speeding ticket, a traffic ticket. That's where people got to get it. This is the way the real world works. These guys are rape, rob, and murdering petition people. They don't love you. They don't care for you. They want your money. They want your house. They believe that they give their life for your freedom. So because they give your life for your freedom, you're not entitled to have life. a fact, folks. I used to be in the industry. I know it's a fact. And as soon as you accept the fact of it and start realizing it is a fact. I spent many years at the Oregon State House and Senate myself. I spent many years watching this stuff going on in law enforcement myself. You know, I watched if you didn't comply, how they would set you up and try to put you in prison or off you off. Myself, been there, done it, lived it. So when I tell you a lot of this stuff, it's not like I'm making it up out of the blue. I'm not sitting there giving this stuff to you craziness. I'm telling you this to protect you, to educate you, so this way you comprehend not to put yourself in these positions or these predicaments. Because the minute you put yourself in these predicaments, then you're the liable instrument. An instrument sings, a document docks a boat. Documents is a docking ship. That's why I don't use the word document. And if I do, I slap myself most of the time for it, because a document is very, very simple. You're docking a ship. You're asking permission. That means you have to give a border pass to enter that port. You have to give your information to enter that port. And that's what it really means when you enter a port. I don't comprehend how people don't see this fact. And I do comprehend that others do not know it. So that's why we're trying to give you this information to open your eyes up to the actual facts of what goes on by our elected and public servants. And that's your police departments. Read their job description. Read that they're a code enforcer. And we have the administrative roles. I don't know if I have them up there yet, or we will have them. I'll make sure they're up here pretty soon. And if you read some of the federal laws, they even said tonight, their job is to enforce codes on elected and public servants, registered church members, and voters. Their job is not to even have, we even have the laws that they're not even supposed to have contact with bloodline Americans. And that includes natives. Oh, that's right, Native Indians as bloodline Americans. White men, Chinese, are bloodline Americans. They've been on this planet for a couple hundred years. And I've had arguments with people that says, well, if the Indians came from India, they're supposed to go back to India. Well, I get your stupidity where you hear that stuff on stupidity, because Indians were told Indians by, what was his name, Columbus, because he was on his way to India. So on the way to India, that's how he ended up with the name Indians. We ended up, Native people and Native Indians ended up with that. Yes, my bloodline is that too. So, I mean, it's like knowing the truth. Standing up for your neighbors, knowing your neighbors. I mean, it's scary. I mean, I've got neighbors that I wouldn't even trust at all. I've had neighbors that made dozens of false police reports on me and claims. Yeah, I've been there, done it. Not a lie. I've got YouTube videos up. At one point, I had 100 pages of YouTube videos up. Literally. And because of the House and Senate of Oregon and the things I filed, they've even taken stuff out of public record. They've some of my links that are on the state websites, they took off because they couldn't dispute it. Oh my God, I had filings and liens and criminal charges filed on these men and women personally. They couldn't dispute it. So that's where I'm coming from, that we have to start standing up and learning from one another. We have to start protecting one another. And if you're not willing to stand up and protect your neighbor, I mean, that's one thing that gets to me, what people call, I'm a Christian. Well, I haven't seen Christians stand together protecting their neighbor. I haven't seen Christians standing up protecting one another. I see Christians out there yelling and screaming and backstabbing each other for personal and financial gain. I see that all the time. All the time. Oh, that's right. That's called judges, attorneys, lawyers, and even people that I've been on the internet that keep going after me to block me up because I won't go with Christianity. I grew up Christianity. I grew up with Roman Catholic Church. I grew up with baptism, Baptist Church. And, you start realizing that all these men and women, if you don't comply to their religious beliefs, they stab you in the back, they turn you in. Oh my God, isn't that how people say Jesus was killed? Because Jesus was killed by Christians who turned him in. Even his own parents were part of that structure. That's the history of that to claim, but then again, who knows what the real history is? We get told history, but we don't know what real history is. So I deal with history that is here today. I don't deal with the tooth fairy and, unicorns and that type of stuff. Won't deal with it. Don't want to even let my mind go that way. I get people that call me up, and I don't have a problem once in a while. Go through religious conversations. We do that. The other thing, I do have to thank a lot of people that here in the last few weeks, we've had wonderful religion conversations, finally, few of us, when we got through the bullshit, because, I believe in the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, and the Great Spirit. I don't believe in the Bible and that stuff, because that was written by man. And we finally come to a point where, okay, now we're on equal terms. We're on the same page. Because it's like, okay, you're entitled to your belief, I'm entitled to my belief, and it's like, now you're catching on, but now we have a belief here that we need to go after and correct our elected and public servants. Well, they got us fighting in the streets or on the internet back and forth. This is how they're winning, folks. And they're using religion against us. And you guys buy it. When you go to that court case, that's religion used against you. I don't see how people cannot see how it doesn't work when you go to court. It's right in front of your face. Oh, and the other point I was supposed to get into, and I haven't got into, but I'm going to open the floor, and I got to pull up something before I get into it, is the flag. That was the other point that I was supposed to get into, the flag point tonight. So I will do that here in a few minutes. But I'm going to open the floor. I have to go get...
Ed? The flag was supposed to be for Veterans Day.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. I stand corrected. I don't have a problem. Stand corrected. I will have that done on Veterans Day. But anyhow, that's true. I had a brain fart. That happens. We all have brain farts. And it's like the other point with police departments. The other point that I want to bring to your attention to that I know I have up on the website is a certified copy of H.R. 192 Public Law 10 CH 48 STAT STAT 48-12-1 PDF file. And so when you get to that point and you start reading this is a certified copy from the House and Senate stating that this was passed. So we're not supposed to pay our water, electricity bill, and food bills so long as you're a bloodline American. This is the Library of Congress Golden Seal filed, and it was witnessed, and it was refiled and witnessed May 2nd, 2012. So they went, because there's been people saying, oh, Ed, they rescind this. Oh, Ed, they didn't do that. Oh, Ed, 192 does not exist. And if you go into Statute at Large 192, March 30, 1933 to June 1934, actually it has it right in this where it was stamped, where it was filed with this affidavit through Congress stating when they took away the dollar and the gold and silver and put the dollar in, that Americans are not supposed to be paying your bills. They took away your main reason or your main means to pay bills. And I'll get into a show on gold and silver one night down the road here. But we've got these things that they have taken away, and now we need to start collectively filing. It's like that Dave and I put together an instrument dealing with lawful and legal, constitution contract. And if you sign that, if you're a lawful bloodline or a legal immigrant, it's already been filed in the House and Senate of Congress. It's been filed in the state of Oregon, through the Secretary of State and the committees. So it's already filed and recorded record. So when you file that instrument, you can look it up. We've got it on the internet. We've got it out there. So if you file that, you're claiming your rights, your bloodline. And I want to get into this one here, seeing that we're getting into this one all, because the 1938 Foreign Administration Act, and I'll have this out because I finally found the one I was working on. Because I only got a few thousand emails, like 70,000 I'm trying to get caught up on. Anyhow, it states clearly, all servants, officials, congressmen, politicians, judge, attorneys, law enforcement officers, state, federal, county, that even includes rent-a-cops, your mall cops at the malls, anybody that's under the structure of getting public funding, because remember, a lot of these private businesses, they take a tax write-off, so that's public funding, and that even says it in the IRS code, states the various agencies. So that means any agency, DHS, public servants of any agency, welfare office, energy assistance programs, are express agents of these foreign principles. Have to be registered, mandatory by the Foreign Agents Registration Act, 22 U.S.C. 8286, all right, SEQ 263A 1585G 267J, and this is the way it looks when you pull it up on 22 U.S.C. 286. You want to do this, and this goes into it's a Treasury delegation order. So this is from the United States Federal Reserve Treasury Delegation Order 91, and you can type in Treasury Delegation Order 91. You'll come up with it. Because remember, they're paid for out of the 1933 Bankruptcy Act that the British government went bankrupt to we the people. This country never went bankrupt. The corporation went bankrupt to we the people. That's the British government. If you type in federal government, you'll notice it comes up federal government of the British government. And the British. And that even ties right to the Vatican. It's like the Pope came out here in the last couple weeks saying, we need one world government under everybody, and that way you do what the Vatican tells you and Christianity tells you, and you have no rights. And that's exactly what's going on, what they're trying to do. If they get that in, your rights to any religion belief you believe in, any, I don't care if you're a Wicca, whatever, they get that in, I will guarantee you, the minute they get that in, and you do not follow and comply under their administrative rules, you will be quartered and hung, just like the Christian Crusades did. No bullshit, no difference. It's written off of the actual structure of the Christian Crusade if you look it up and read it. And that's the one thing that people go, oh, they can't do that. They won't do that. Well, how many people have you known that ended up for driving without a license, doing 6 months in jail without a license? Oh, God's going to save me. Yeah, we see how God worked in jail. Been there, done it. Learned that one myself. Hey, sorry, I don't buy into it. You know, I buy into the laws that I see, what I read, and I buy into when people stand together. People stand together, that makes it work. And if you want to call it God, that's okay. But if we don't stand together, there is no God. Doesn't work that way. Man makes things happen. Women make things happen. You know? And I want to get into this one because I get into this with people all the time about the law, the cops, and the 14th Amendment. The federal Constitution makes a clear distinction between natural, native-born and citizens and natural or nationals of the United States Incorporation. The citizens and nationals are of the United States Incorporation. This is where people don't read. They get confused, and then they want to separate, and then they want to get off these tangents. And I deal with people all the time when I talk to them on the internet and on phones. And they want to argue with me, and I'm going, here's what the law says. If you are natively born, and it even says 5 or more generations in congressional records, we have written that in our structure. This goes by the British Vatican Contract of 1871. The federal zone. This is actually written in the congressional records itself like this. And that's the one thing is that, when you read these things, it's reading for what it says, asking for the original instruments. Not a document, because a document is docked, and a doc could be changed. An instrument has to be written by the player, so it has to sing. An instrument is like a musical instrument. It sings. It brings out the truth. A dock, you could dock a ship, load up, and leave, and if you get away with whatever you're leaving, you got to the next port to dock again. And, it's like the Constitution says, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. People say, well, medical, you're not entitled to medical. Well, I thought life was medical. Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it. Which I do, and I've written it in my instruments. I've written that when I did my lien on the hospital and when they try to do their stuff to me, and that's all publicly out there. And I think that stuff is on my on our new.org and tracker site. So remember, foreign agents have to be registered with the Foreign Registration Act. When I get this instrument out here pretty soon, which I've had several people calling me up the last couple of weeks going, Ed, come on, we want to get this thing filed on our mayor, city council and stuff. I just about got it finished. I was trying to get to it today. I finally found it again, and I got to finish it up because I got to get served on my governor, on my House and Senate members, and so you guys could do it too. It states in the actual law that if they don't register, it's minimum 1 year in jail. And so we want to file that. We'll give them a 21-day grace period. I do have the links on where they have to file and that stuff into the instrument here too. So that way it's not a conflict. But see, if they file late, they can be penalized financially. So we go after the financial, and then we know that once they comprehend that, maybe they might honor their oath of public service. And that is Title 5, 3331 through 3333, that says the oath of office. You take an oath to the Constitution, and it actually says that in the Foreign Registration Act too, that you give up your citizenship, your nationalship, your foreignship to be a public employee. And technically, on this too, and that's the one thing when I'm writing in mine, and I'm going to be proving with Kate Brown and a few other senators, you cannot be a foreigner in government office. They lie. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger was the California governor. California Constitution actually says you have to be born in the 48 states to run for office. So the attorneys went to the general public, says, well, we went through the law and it says that we can do it. But if people stand up and do anything, oh no, this sheeple, oh bad, we do what we're told. We don't care. And California, man, even suffered with that one, as they're really suffering right now with Jerry Brown. I still cannot believe. I know Jerry Brown wasn't elected. Honestly, that had to have been done through fraudulent computer, because there's no way he could have been elected. There's no possible way. And then that's the other thing too that sort of disturbs me with a lot of that stuff is the second recall, because I filed the original recall on Kate Brown. I did mine lawfully, not legally like these guys did. They went ahead and did it through the one structure, which I thought was interesting, and they went through the state of Oregon to do electronic registration. I'll try to explain to them about electronic registration. They wouldn't listen to me. Electronic registration, they could improvise anything they want. So that's when they got rid of when they were able to do the electronic stuff. They got a way to do this stuff and to get away with it. And people were allowing this to happen. There's a video done by law professor James Duane. It's called Never Talk to Police. I do recommend people watch that. I do believe I have that on our site. We do have law professors that I've used their videos. I have contacted some of these men and women. Some of them said, yeah, pass on the education. Absolutely. That's what we're doing. Because this is the one thing. If we don't save our country and we don't educate our true bloodline and our true children to the circumstances, and that's lawful and illegal. That's just not one or the other. This is the point where people have got to comprehend the reality of our country. Country is 48 states. The country is not the structure of the British government. We have a contract with them. It is not Puerto Rico. It is not Hawaii, Alaska. Okay, that's the one thing they're not. It's knowing what our forefathers did. The other forefathers allowed it to do. It's like when Jimmy Carter did when he ran for office. When he ran for office, he allowed everybody in Cuba that came through in Florida to vote, which is ridiculous because they cannot vote. They can't. They don't have a right to vote. This is what is so disturbing. But they gave them Social Security numbers that came over from Cuba. So now they're a citizen. This last election, in California and the state of Oregon right now are working on a ballot measure, administrative rules, so that way anybody can vote in an election from another country. They call themselves a citizen of the state, even though that they're not a citizen of the state by immigration or being born here. And they're trying to pass this along so people can sit there and be foolish enough to go along with these things. Sort of like, with the gay bills in California. If you say something that they don't like, you can go to jail. It's the same thing in London now. If you say something wrong to a gay man or woman, you can go to prison for it. If you don't respect their point of view. Have we really lost it? Have we really lost it, folks, when it really comes down to it? When you think about these things, we've lost it. We're allowing people to come in, run our country, to take over our beliefs, over our families, over our states. They're coming in. I don't give a darn if you're gay, lesbian, 10-buck, two-color, whatever. And I'll tell you, this is a true story, man, because, I hate it when people sit there and go, well, you don't understand gay and lesbians, Ed. You don't comprehend this. So, yes, I do. I know friends of the family, and I won't get into anything else, but, yeah, I know about a lot of gay and lesbian people. Of course, I grew up in San Francisco. What do you expect? But the other point is I tell people you need to write a contract. If you are gay and lesbian, you need to write a contract between you two. If you don't write a contract, that's what the law says. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. Contract. You make a contract between you and that individual. Then you make a contract. Oh, my God, now you've got rights. But if you don't got a contract and you get a marriage license, okay, that's like the lady who won the lawsuit that she was suing, I forgot which state, Minnesota, I think it was, where she was suing the state because she wouldn't issue a gay marriage license. And everybody was going, well, that's okay, Ed. That's legal for her to do that. No, it's not. Because when she's going because of her religious beliefs in a public servant job, you're not entitled to have a religious belief on a job. Period. Unless you own that corporation. If you own the business, you are entitled to have an opinion of a religious belief. But if you are elected a public servant, Christian, Roman Catholic Church, Baptist, whatever, you're not entitled to have an opinion that the public is paying you for. It's that simple. It's that simple. You are paid to do a job by the public servants to do your job, and that is by statute codes and administrative rules. If you don't like it, too bad, too tough. You shouldn't be in the job. You don't have a right to have your opinion of your religion on the job. It doesn't work that way. Elected and public servants are not allowed to do that. And once people start grasping what the Constitution actually means, what the Constitution supports, All right, you can be with any religion you want, but you don't have a right to tell somebody else how to believe. You don't have a right to tell somebody else how to live. I can't come in your house, grab your remote, sit in your TV chair or sit in your chair, your comfortable chair, and then you telling me that I have to go by your rules? Wait a minute. I come in your house, I tell you that you go by my rules now. And that's what we're living right now today on the streets. We're living that way right now where cops are able to do forfeiture laws illegally without a jury trial. Remember, these things are jury trials. They cannot do this by a judge. A judge has no authority in a courtroom whatsoever. The judge is supposed to be a mediator only in a Supreme Court or even a local court. He is supposed to be the mediator. He has no judicial authority, period. And under the 11th Amendment, you always want to look up the 11th Amendment and file under judicial immunity under that for yourselves, because you have immunity, they do not. Judges and police officers have no immunities whatsoever, period. End of story. They're not immune. They are public servants. They are personally liable for their own actions, their own responsibilities. And if they don't take that responsibility seriously, then they're not supposed to be in a job. If people say, well, I can't file my paperwork, they get away with doing this, they get away with doing that. Well, they get away with that, folks, is because we you ever heard of something called we the people? We the people are not standing up to these men and women filing together. I always tell people, people go, hey, Ed, we need to get a class action lawsuit. No, you don't. You want individual lawsuits, because a class action lawsuit, if you do a class action lawsuit, that we throw out a class action lawsuit. When you do individual lawsuits, let's say 100 or 200 or 50 or 10 individual lawsuits get filed. 10 individual lawsuits get filed. They can't throw out them all. If they accept one, then you have the opportunity to come back after the other ones that they didn't address. But that's where people need to comprehend how these things are set up for us to read, comprehend, look at this. Bring up a video. Eddie Craig is a good video to watch on YouTube, a former cop, undercover cop. He does one, I'll be putting this up on my website too, where, he tells you how to handle yourself when you get pulled over. The first thing, if you get pulled over by a public servant, first thing, where's the emergency? Because they're supposed to use their lights on emergency only. Life and death emergencies. That's the only thing that they're supposed to use their lights and sirens on. When they are using it against you, and I have to find some laws, because I actually got some administrative rules and congressional records that say if they use their lights to write you a ticket or doing something like that, that's personal and financial gain, and those are federal crimes. And it's writing these instruments up to protect one another. That's why when I put these instruments up, like I said, I'm no attorney. Nobody. When it comes down to it, I'm just nobody. I'm a guy that just reads this stuff up, puts stuff together, looks good to me. I put it out, let you make your own decisions. Change it, alter them, write them, personalize them for yourself. I don't get paid for doing this stuff, period. I mean, even my website that I got up, New Doctor Organ Trackers and everything, I'm disabled, and I pay for this out of my own pocket. I struggle every month. I got to figure out what bills or how I'm going to eat sometimes. Seriously, folks, this is not a joke. But I'm doing this so that way at least we know what it is, how we are to protect ourselves, our bloodline, our children. And that's the one thing we need to do. And I want you guys to look at the one thing, if you get a chance, it's called State Legislators and ALEC. ALEC is a program that was written so that way they can sit there, and John Oliver has a good one on John Oliver last week tonight on HBO. Gets into legislative with ALEC. And I know this for a fact because senators and House of Representatives, ALECs, are written by attorneys. And these guys go out and they'll claim that they wrote this bill themselves when ALEC wrote it. Attorneys, lawyers, The House and Senate of the state of Oregon, when they pass administrative rules, they are passed by lawyers. That's why they have a copyright on administrative rules. They are done by lawyers, and that's illegal for them to do it. So it is standing up to your elected and public servants, comprehending how to file a claim on them. You have to file a claim. You have to use corpus delicti in your claim. If you don't use that, you are saying you're not a living man, that you are a citizen, a national, a thing. And that's where people don't comprehend that one. If you're not a thing, you're not a thing. If you are a thing, then you have no rights to file. And, you know, I get people that send me their stuff. I don't have a problem going through stuff when I get a chance. But I always add in, and I suggest you always put in corpus delicti 2771. If you are not a corpus delicti, a living man or woman, you don't have a right to your injuries, your damages, your properties. And that's what it really means. You don't have a right for that at all. Remember, police, judges, attorneys, lawyers, caseworkers, CSPs, DHS, all these men and women work together. They sleep in the same bed. A lot of them go to the same Christian church, and they are Christians. So when they're going to the same Christian church and you see them and you go, oh, these people are wonderful people, they're Christians. They wouldn't do that to me. I watched these men and women steal children right out from people that they've known for 10 or 20 years when they had new kids. Financial gain for them. It is. It is financial gain. Remember, they make a living off of you. That's the whole point. They make a living. They don't love you. They don't care for you. This is called piracy. This is supposed to be illegal. Or unlawful, technically. Illegal and legal is British government. And remember, anybody says it's legal, ask them what the British government code is for it, because illegal is British government laws. Read it. Type in the terminology with British legal. You might be amazed at what you learn on it. It really is when you start looking into these things. I mean, and that's the whole point. People don't look into these things. They don't realize what the deal is. A public servant either has a constitutional oath to protect us or we don't. Otherwise, we don't need them. Oh, I do have to say congratulations this week that I could probably say. Another entire police department literally walked off the job and left the city hanging in the Midwest. Literally everybody, including the police chief, walked off the job and said they would not commit road piracy and assaulting people anymore. That was their main thing that they filed with the city hall and the mayor when they left. They said that, and so I am working on a ballot title that I'll be working on this week. I had several people who do ballot titles who would like to get that done. So I'm going to get that written up so people could, if they want to, they can file that in their own local elections, because I don't do elections. I'm not a registered elector. But I will not do that myself. I've done that. I've recalled an entire government body before. Been there, done it. But I'm not a registered voter. I'm a lawful American. I had to prove myself on certain things to clarify it. Now I've clarified it, and so I will not be a citizen or an immigrant or anything like that. So it's just no one knows, but I don't have a problem writing this up. I'll do that. Philadelphia is one that was the first one that passed and got rid of all their administrative courts in the city of Philadelphia. They're all done. There's no police department there. There's no courts. They're just done with it. Firemen are getting it. It's like that nurse that was in Utah was assaulted by that cop because she wouldn't take a blood IV from that injured man in an auto accident because the cops were trying to blame an innocent man to cover up for possibly another cop that was in the accident. They do it. That's a fact. They do it, folks. It's real. You know. They actually do that. When you file a bar complaint or any of these things, you make sure that they're publicly filed. You never file them and think that, you have this or that protection. Don't work that way. It's amazing that people need to stop living in Disneyland. So when you deal with a public servant, elected public servant, registered church member, remember, you want to file the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act. Foreign Agent Registration Act. You want to make sure that they're lawful or legal in their position. That is your responsibility. It's like these people say, well, what about the district attorney? And they're supposed to do it. District attorney works for the state corporation. Does not work for you. Does not. That's the job. They don't work for you. I've dealt with that in my county, even with the former district attorney, Bernice Burnett. I put her on public trial in my county, literally in the newspapers throughout the state. Literally. She had to resign, and then the cops started harassing me again, going after me because I reduced their income when I got her out of their system. Well, my point of life is not making sure corrupt criminals have an income. And the police departments, so far to date, have killed more Americans and immigrants, because we had that one immigrant lady that was killed this summer from another immigrant that was a cop, which I didn't think that immigrants could be cops in this country. They sure relaxed a lot of things on those things that shouldn't be allowed. But that's the point where we have to start coming to these points and standing up for our country. Your 48 states. We start doing that, we can stop civil war. They're like this deal in Texas today with the church shooting. What are they trying to set us up for? Civil war, the Bible Belt. That was done right in the heart of what they call the Bible Belt. Think about this. Who's setting what up? What are they trying to stir up? They're trying to get people to go against religion. That's why I say, don't do religion. That way you cannot get in an argument. You cannot, I get people all the time that wants to argue with me about religion. And it's like, no, I don't want to argue about your religion, because your religion doesn't mean nothing to me. Your personal safety means something to me. Your life might mean something to me. But religion? Nah. I don't believe in religion. I believe in the Great Spirit. Without the Great Spirit and Mother, you have no life. Think about it. Without man and woman, there is no life. Without the Creator, there is no other part of life. That means your trees, your vegetables, your gardens, those type of things. One thing I do recommend and suggest to people, grow a garden. Seriously, grow a garden. Collect the rainwater. State of Oregon says, if you collect rainwater, we're going to throw you in prison. People have gone to jail for it. I've tried to help people out of that stuff and try to prove the law to them. And instead they go, well, we just give up our land. We just walk away. We just give it to them. And to me, those are not Americans. Those are not Americans to do that. Americans don't turn on their children. They don't walk away from their assets. And you're not supposed to walk away from your fellow man if you're a so-called Christian. That's why I have fun with Christians, because everybody will say, I'm a Christian. Well, I see the way you treat your fellow man and woman, the average man, woman, and child. I sure don't want to be part of that religion the way you treat them. When you think about it, no way. Christians are supposed to be loving, they claim, but if you go back in real history with the Christian Crusades and the Roman Catholic, and how all the Roman Catholic and the Christians at one point were together, and then they had the Christian Crusades and had the wars because over control. Read real history, folks. I've had people that argue with me, and I've been very blessed that I've had a few people that we've been able to talk about religion to a degree nowadays because they're getting what I'm saying. I already know what they're telling me. But when you start seeing what the natives thought about it, what the natives did, the natives didn't have fights and stuff like this and argue about a religious belief. Everybody basically hunt and fished. Everybody built their teepees the same way. Everybody skinned a fish basically the same way. So it hasn't changed. And then we got all these immigrants coming in and telling us how to live. I'm glad to see Columbus Day finally disappearing. Because Columbus Day is, to me, a man that raped, robbed, and pillaged the natives. And it's like if you actually look in history, you'll see the chicken pot blankets that were given to the natives by Christians and killing the native people off. So it does make you wonder about those things. They gave us the Bible to pray for their sins. That's the thing that gets to me about it. So that's the one thing that gets to me. And I'm glad to see that Corey Feldman is finally starting to get the recognition that he's been bitching about on this for years about what's been going on in the industry. And that's the one thing that people need to realize. This is nothing new in that industry. Corey, write the affidavit, file the criminal charges, make sure that the DA has to do their job. That's the only way it's going to happen. You finally came out and named a few people. Now file the criminal charges on them. Then you can start seeing some things happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. There's a lot of actors now that are coming out and people are speaking up on this. Then you'll have, and I've seen this, Christians already speaking out, going, oh, they shouldn't open their mouth, they should keep it to themselves. Yeah, and that's Christianity, huh? So, these are the things that make you think about things. These are things that make you wonder about what's going on in the world today. And if we don't stand up today for your children, your bloodline, if you don't stand up for your bloodline, you're telling the world you don't even care about yourself, you don't care about this country, and you don't care about anything. We got all these people that come from foreign countries. They don't care about this country. They don't care about their children. That's a fact. So it's up for you to start proving your bloodline that you care and love your children. So yeah, but anyhow, I'm going to see if anybody wants to speak up, throw something in, or it's been an hour and a half, so I will probably thinking we could wrap it up tonight unless somebody would like to throw something in the conversation. The door's open.
All participants are unmuted.
Okay. So, I guess that we'll look at wrapping it up tonight. I want to thank everybody for listening. For those who are, come back regularly, I'd like to thank you on that. We do look forward to further education and knowledge and passing more things around, passing things back and forth, so this way we know how to defend our bloodline, know how to claim our bloodline. And if you don't claim your bloodline, you're not a responsible man or woman. It's that simple. Or an adult. You're not being an adult if you're not claiming your bloodline. So these are things that we need to know, how to claim our bloodline or how to claim our responsibility, our liabilities. And so, anyhow, with that, I'd like to call it an evening, and wish everybody good luck. I'll get into some more stuff, and then, like I said, next Sunday I'm going to walk through the actual structure of the flag, the symbols, the gold fringe structure. I'll have stuff that'll be running. We'll get that on the screen, going through that so people can see the actual truth compared to what people are presuming their opinions are. Remember, opinions are like diapers, need to be changed regularly. Like politicians, that's just another diaper. What it really means is just another diaper. So if we don't start protecting the bloodline, nobody else is doing it. I want to say those who are catching on, who are starting to comprehend it and doing a wonderful job on these things, protecting their bloodline, and I'm working on the template too to set up for people's properties and that, so that way they can set up the property for their bloodline, their children, and that stuff. So I'm be working on that. It's just so many things I could do one at a time because, like I said, I'm a one-horse soldier basically doing this stuff. So anyhow, with that, I like to say good evening. Thank you for joining us. We are not lawyers. We are not attorneys. We are just gentlemen and women that are educating each other. We do have on the new.org trackers a public bulletin board. So if you send stuff, we can make sure that it gets up there, because that's one way you have reference when you do your cases or stuff. It is public, besides being in mainstream media. We do have this up, so that is to protect you and me and all of us. So we have something that works for us. So with that, may the Great Spirit bless you with life. May Mother give you life, and may the Creator bless your sanity and safety. Thank you.
Well, class is over, everybody. It is Education by Ed. And today's date is Sunday, November 5th, 2017. Thank you for joining us, and catch us next Sunday, where Ed will come up with a subject. Monday, on Veterans Day, he'll be talking about the flags. Thank you very much.
This session is no longer being recorded.